Hey everybody, it's James Hecht. Hope everyone's having a great day. We are here today on LC Lowdown with a phenomenal guest based here in Dallas, right along with me, Christian Johnson. Christian Johnson is here with us. And we are we are so excited to spend a little time, get to know Christian and his background, and give you another exciting edition of LC Lowdown. So Christian, with that great build-up, right? I feel like I'm like doing like TV shows now. The big question that everybody wants to know is, how did you get into this crazy business? What was the twist of fate or turn that pulled you in and kept you in this business, or got you into this business?
Yeah, so I came out of a crazier business, which is the restaurant business, and I'm sure thankful I'm not in that anymore. Yeah. But you know, I was driving to work one afternoon and I looked over, this car next to me is a silver Mercedes convertible, and he had golf clubs in the back seat and a ping golf hat on. And I looked at myself at 3 o'clock, knowing that I wasn't going to get home till like 4 or 5 in the morning. I looked at him, looked at me, and I said, man, there's got to be a better way to live. So the next morning I got up and I just called everybody I knew. I said, what are you doing? Do you like your job? And I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So half of my friends were, well, gosh, my job's so fulfilling. We're out planting trees all day. I said, well, you making any money? No, we're not making any money. But I feel like I'm doing something. And then I'd call, some people I went to college with in Texas and said, what are you doing? And I'd go the run around, or, hey, I'm in a law firm in the basement doing research all day. And that doesn't sound like fun. And then I ran into 4 or 5 people that were doing mortgages, and I didn't even know how to spell mortgage. And this is back in, early 2000s, late 90s. And so I ended up taking a leap of faith and joining a small mortgage company in a 1-bedroom apartment, cold calling leads out of a B paper tub of throwaways.
Wow. And that was in New Mexico?
No, that was here in Dallas.
So you had moved, you grew up in New Mexico, but you were already here in Dallas. Okay.
That's right. Wow. Yeah.
So did you ever find out what the guy in the silver car, what he did?
No, I never found out what that guy did, but you know what? And the whole thing is, I got sold on this whole mortgage deal was, hey, you can come in and you can work as hard as you want, make as much money as you want. And then in the afternoon, if you want to go play golf, you can go do that. And I was like, that sounds great. And then I went and sat in a mortgage company, and I watched these guys about 3 o'clock in the afternoon pack up, go jump in their Mercedes and go play golf. And I thought, man, and some of these guys I went to college with, if they were doing it, I could really do it.
Right.
And my golf game sucks.
Yeah, you strike me as the type about 3 o'clock you're going to get lunch.
I play a horrible round of golf now, and I thought I would be really good by now, but no, I don't have time to play golf.
That's a great story. So New Mexico is where you grew up. You came to Dallas. I guess the benefit of the mortgage business versus the food business is at least you can sort of get your hours. At least you're at home maybe when you're working later at night versus in the restaurant. So you've obviously built in a great career. As you look at your business today, and I use the word team. Some people like the word team, some people don't. But when you think of Christian Johnson team, what does that team structure look like with PA? Do you have other LCs on your team? Your brand, how does where your leads come from? Kind of what does that look like in terms of how you get your business today?
Yeah, so as far as branding, we've built a pretty strong brand locally, and so everybody pretty much knows the Christian Johnson name. So we've let that port over to the entire branch. So it's everybody knows they're part of the Christian Johnson group. But as far as my structure, each loan officer works for themselves, so everybody's feeding their own house. So, as far as the loan officer, I'm the only loan officer on the team. I have 2 PAs and a BA. And basically we've got, our own version of the perfect loan process where we, I call it kind of the doctor process where, you walk into a doctor's office and someone takes all your vitals, takes your information, gets a bunch of information, starts asking questions, why do you feel bad? What's going on? And then they go back to the doctor, kind of give them a report, and that's the application. The application's been scrubbed. Here's what we're seeing. And then by the time it gets to me, I can go in and look at it and okay, here's my assessment. Here's what we do. So then I go in and I meet the client or the patient. Okay. And then I kind of go through, well, so I want to confirm this is what you're seeing. This is what's happening. This is where we want to get. Okay. well, here's some options of how we get there. And then I, prescribe the medicine. And then, after we're done and we'd say a couple of cordials, then someone comes in and writes I write the script, but then someone comes in and, wraps up the session, says, what you need to do next, where you go from here, and then you check out at the end kind of thing. So if you work your touches like that and everybody kind of plays a role and you've empowered everyone in the process, then that's how, that's currently our structure anyway.
Wow. Fascinating. I mean, it's very prescribed. Now those on the team, have they worked with you for a while? Like, the other members that make those initial calls, has that been, a group that's all been together for some period of time?
We've had some turnover because we started that whole team thing with apprentices. And those apprentices went on to be loan officers who are still with us and doing an amazing job. But we've kind of backtracked that a little bit because I was reinventing the wheel every year. And so now what we're doing is we brought in, so we have 2 PAs that have been with me for now almost 2 years. Okay. And they're empowered. They're off and running to go. I've got a BA that's been with me for 10 years. And my processor's been with me for over 10 years. Wow. So they're kind of the sergeant and the general. I call Vince the goalie because he's the last touch before the file goes into underwriting. And so he makes sure that it's got the blessing, the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, and then it goes in kind of thing. Yeah. And that seems to work for all of us.
Vince has a pretty strong reputation here locally. He's been in the business a while, and apparently he's got a pretty good sports backing up in Denton where he lives, apparently.
He does.
Heard some of these stories, but that's great. Now talking about, when we think about your business, you have you obviously have a big portion now that comes from past customer referrals and portfolio. Your new referrals are those coming mainly from realtors versus builders or any financial planners? What's the source of those incoming new leads?
Yeah, so I would say 70% of our business comes in from realtor referral. Probably 20 or 10% come in from builders. Okay. We do have some preferred builder, and I found some pretty good success with urban infill builders. The big box builders, they've got a guy, they got their own company. Their companies are diversified and have all that stuff in house. But if you can get urban infill, they're desperate for support. And the kind of support we're giving them, they want some help with title policy and that kind of stuff, but that's not really what they want. They want like marketing, or they just want you to publicize great things about them on the internet, on social media, about what a great product they have. They love that. Yeah. So we've had some,
and that's going to grow. That's a growing market.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you got to realize that a lot of these major cities have a lot of houses that have outlived their life cycle. It's kind of time for them to go down. And when that happens, then that's great for urban infill. So. Yeah.
There's a stat, it's probably outdated a little bit, but and it was last year I heard it, that 65% of America's housing stock is 25 years or older.
Wow. Yeah.
So, that kind of blends right into that.
And if you think about when that year was made, you're in the 90s and 80s, what kind of quality product were we putting up? It was nothing like what we were putting up in the 20s and 30s.
No,
it's not a quality product.
No, and the consumer, demand and expectations have changed. So I think that's a fascinating niche that you've picked up on, and I think that's only going to grow.
Yeah.
You mentioned, your processor you'd worked with for 10 years. So, one of the things that, we all know in our business is you live and die by operations, and, because it's your follow through on your commitment to the customer, et cetera. What, that relationship, it obviously everyone has to manage it a little bit different, but certainly you've worked with this individual a long time. But what other tips would you say that you've learned over the years that makes your team more successful as they partner with operations?
It's empowering open communication. At every point, everyone's going to make a mistake sometimes. Everyone needs to own their mistake and say, I'm sorry. Everyone's doing the very best they can, especially right now. Everybody's just pulling themselves out at the seams. And so you just need to work hard and learn how to take a no and say, this isn't the way this is going to work. and trust. And when they know that you trust them, it really opens things up and empowers them to show off their skill sets.
Yeah.
And so, Kelly is amazing at talking to the underwriters, working through issues. A lot of times, a lot of things are handled and that I don't even know happened, and that's perfect. That's exactly the way it should work, is that, talk through it. Let's get through it together. Surely there's a yes here somewhere. And if we can't get there, then let's get Christian involved and escalate it and go from there. So
you said something that I think is just fascinating that you just said. You said show off their skill sets, right? And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, is we all play a part, right? And in that case, you're saying, look, I trust you, I expect, how I set expectations with the customer, and go do your thing and deliver, show off your skill set. That's a fascinating way to think about it.
Well, my uncle owned a company that was wildly successful. And the one thing I learned from him was hire people that are better than you.
Yeah.
And when you hire people, there's a little bit of an exploration. You got to kind of figure out what they're really good at and then put them in those slots. Don't take someone who's not a marketing person and put them in marketing just because you need a marketing person. A good football coach can sometimes move someone from defensive back over to safety to tackle, whatever, based on what they're good at in that model. Yeah. And, when I find people that are really good at particular roles, let them do their thing and let them run. Yeah. I learned that from, I learned that from Lee Cove, is just let your people go, let them do their thing. Yeah. And you know what? They're going to fall on their face every once in a while. That's okay. Pick them up, brush them off, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like we would have the same expectation. No, that's fascinating. So, obviously we talked a little bit about your team operation and how you got into the business. Was there ever a time as you're building your career, building your business, learning the business, that you kind of hit something and said, you know what, I'm going to try this? And looking back, that was the point of inflection that saw your business be great, good to great, if you will. Was there ever that moment or an adjustment that you made that just you saw it take off?
There's a lot of points in our career where we all sit down and think, God, there's got to be a better way, and it's those moments where you kind of try to figure out what can take things off your shelf. Learning how to organize your email all of a sudden makes your phone stop buzzing all the time and stop becoming a distraction. Creating scripts. That's probably the one thing that saved me a tremendous amount of time, because in this business, you tend to get the same question over and over and over again. And if you're able to just cut and paste the answer and send it on, it's so much easier. And it's all my words, it's my voice. Right. And they can hear me in the email, right. But I don't have to keep rewriting the same email.
Yeah. Yeah. You're your own artificial intelligence bot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's fascinating. So to that same end, talking a little bit, bridging into technology. So, clearly you have H2O, right? And that's our main system. But as an originator, is there either a piece of software or a piece of technology that, just changes the game and is what, you look back and go, wow, my business, if I didn't have this, we wouldn't be able to get done what we get done. Is there any must-haves like that in your business?
I think there's a couple things. The first one is a good CRM, because I've invested in that and it keeps me on track. It reminds me to, especially at these volumes, the amount of apps that we're taking, it just reminds me to call these people back, to follow up, to get those touches. And people need personal touches. And it does things post-closing for me that all of a sudden I get an email thank you that I'm like, whoa, I forgot I even sent that. Yeah. So that has been tremendous for me, especially this year, given how busy we are. I need another me, and it's become the other me. Yeah. And then the other thing I'm playing with lately has been HomeBot, and I think the potential is there to really get that thing whiz bang. I get a lot of great feedback on it, and if I can recommend something.
I've heard the same.
I would dive in.
Yeah, I've heard the same. On the CRM, it's interesting you bring up is a lot of people hear CRM and think just, obviously management of contacts and follow-up, but you made the reference, there's also a transaction management element to it, right? Of post and during that, make it just as important as the uses on initial prospecting. And I think that's a key piece.
Yeah, it just keeps me in the lane, and I like to stay totally organized. So it does that for me.
So what do you think, obviously CRM that's something that 10 years ago was far less of something, more paper back then. But as you think, you're an insightful guy and you think about the industry, and what we do as retail originators, what do you see for the future? What future elements do you see coming that, is on your mind and you think that we need to adapt to?
I see a lot of technology. The bot, to your point, items, is trying to get ahead of the customer's next move and anticipate and be there waiting for them around the next corner as they go there. I think we've nailed it for at least a few years, is that it's going to be high technology, but it's got to have a personal touch. Just like you have your favorite doctor or financial planner or dentist or optometrist, you have a guy. Everybody has a guy, and they're all very proud of their people. If you go to a dinner table conversation and say, "Guys, I'm having a hard time seeing across the room. I just can't." Oh my! 3 different people are going to jump up and say, "Oh my God, you got to call my guy," right? Well, it's the same thing in mortgages. Is you want to be that person when someone says, we're thinking about buying a house. I just found out Molly Sue was pregnant. We're about to have our third. We're just busting at the seams. Oh my God, you got to call my guy. You immediately want someone to just be dynamic about you.
Yeah.
And that's the army that we try to build are these salespeople for us that are past clients, to be able to go out and tell what a wonderful experience they had with us. And when you can do that, then now that you've done the magic, that's it. You're going to beat the Loan Depots or whatever, or Rocket Mortgage, whatever that is. You're going to beat them every time because it's a personal touch. They got to have a guy.
Yeah. So you would say, and I think this is definitely where we think about technology, is the ability, at this point, upfront technology to, on the app and all those things, that's kind of been there and done. What it really is, once when you talked about your doctor process, if you will, and you come in at the end and then the customer commits and comes through, the ability to leverage technology to shorten escrow periods, reduce, what the customer needs to do, make them feel part of, the process, almost like you said, like the whole point is, if you fix your email, it solves your voicemail. Well, if you show the customer, the conditions and exactly where they are, then you don't have to do it, right? And then they feel more empowered. So it sounds like that's kind of the vision that you see as well, and augmenting what you do versus anything else.
And that should be entry to the game, to be honest. What we're selling are the personalities, the people. And then, just closing the loan, the function should be blue shoes. Everybody's got blue shoes. I mean, it should be easy at that point.
Yeah. It's got to be that piece. And I think it's an evolution, that's obviously where our focus is, but it's definitely that customer experience, and it's all industries that have to go through it at this point in time. Yeah. So when you think about, I mentioned at the beginning that we have a lot of, really good loan consultants at Caliber that are just getting started. They are where you were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and as you were in the middle of building this great business. What piece of advice do you think, if you could push something out, like what's the 1 or 2 things that you would say to encourage them, or that they must do so that they can be, where you're sitting, down the road?
Find out what works for you, because not everyone has the same systems. Not everyone has the same operational ability. And so, I'm incredibly structured in my day. I'm up at 4:45 in the morning. I work out. I'm showered. I'm at my desk by 7:30. I get more done by 10 a.m. than I'll get done the rest of the day, kind of thing. And so have your structures, but that doesn't work for everyone. Mm-hmm. Some people do really well with the coaching from the core, which is, the accountability and having someone on you and telling you, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Mm-hmm. That's not me. Mm-hmm. So, everyone has their gold mine. You got to find it and then work it. And there's a reason this is called work, is because you have to work it every day.
Right.
And people say, I'm going to work. Well, that's not to get on Amazon.com. It's to get to work.
Right.
And that's the gift, is if you come in and hammer it every day, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Yeah. You just hit on one. Remember I mentioned there was a few common themes, right? And shocking, right? That one of those is actually show up and go to work. I mean, it's the basics, right? It really is the basics. I want to come back to one other, we're going to jump into some really fun personal questions, but I want to come into one other question you mentioned earlier, is your brand, and it's well known. Is there anything that and that's fascinating, because I'm a little bit of a, as you know, living in Dallas, so I'm a Christian Johnson brand homer, I know it. But is there anything you as you approached building that brand, anything that either you thought worked well for you, or things that you kind of stumbled on? Because it's obviously working now, but that's not an easy thing to do.
No, you have to commit to it. I see a lot of people pick a brand and then they flip flop and change the brand, and then change it again, or change their slogan or whatever. You have to lock in, and you got to look at it like the, I call it the city bus marketing technique, that if you and I are standing on the corner, we're having a conversation, we're looking at each other in the eyes, and all of a sudden a city bus goes by and it has a big yellow M on it. You and I are still talking, we're totally engaged, but we both know McDonald's went by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to build your brand and then get it out there, and don't get disappointed when you're not getting payoff, or the phone's not ringing right away. You're building to that point where two people can sit and have a conversation and know that McDonald's went by. Right. You got to know that Christian Johnson just drove by.
Right.
It's that kind of branding. You got to build. You become a household name that way.
Yeah. No, you've done a very great job at that element, and that's one of the beauties is how we allow the brands of you and your team and the personality to come through, with Caliber. So obviously, with what you've accomplished, you've had probably a number of people along the way that have helped, or sometimes people or mentors are those that help you by you doing what they don't do. But are there certain mentors or a mentor that you would go back and think, wow, this person really changed my trajectory in the business?
I think that we all have someone that we look up to. Certainly, my regional manager, Kay Wilkinson, she's been amazing. And I learned early on about, Turkey always taking the high ground, finding the gift in every day. Some days are really bad and things aren't going the way you want them to go. But you know what? Right. At the end of the day, you got to find the gift, because you're not getting that day back again.
Right. Right.
And then, someone I always looked up to, and I still do today, and she is a force in this business in Dallas. And she was the person that, when I was younger in the business, I always wanted, I wanted to go do this job at that level. And that was Lisa Peters.
Oh, yeah.
And she's always got this gift of making everyone around her feel wonderful. Yeah. And if you can do that for people, if you can make someone feel wonderful, if you can have a positive effect on someone, they'll never forget you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, similar to your point, you're sitting at a dinner table and you need a, optometrist, or you need a car guy, or you need whatever it is, right? It's always those people that made that impression. And, it dovetails into the lessons you learned from the mentor, and then the branding. Okay, so now we got the tough ones. Now inquiring minds want to know, what was your first paying job?
I was a paper boy.
We had a motorcycle. 80%.
What's that?
80% of our top people were paper people. We have girls and boys, paper people.
You're kidding.
Unbelievable.
I had a motorcycle and a bag of newspapers at 4 a.m, and I'm out schlepping newspapers.
No, the motorcycle piece, that's ingenious, right? As a morning paper boy myself, my bike, I would like lean over and sometimes tip. So, okay. Now, but the question I always ask the paper boys or girls is, there's really 3 ways, right? You've got the throwers, you've got the box, or you've got the front door, where did you have to put your papers?
I played baseball. I was a thrower.
You had to throw them. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And in the bag, or did you have to fold them?
No, I had to fold them, that tri-fold, and then you put the rubber band around it twice, and then you stuff the whole bag full. And the motorcycle was a little wonky because it was this little mini bike, and people knew when their newspaper came because the motorcycle was so damn loud.
That is awesome. It is clearly that is a lost art. So maybe you answered this earlier. If you weren't a mortgage originator, as you embarked on your, I've got to do something different with my life, what do you think you'd be doing?
At this point in my life, I think I would probably get my EMT and become a ski patrol in the winter and a whitewater raft guide in the summer.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And you spend a lot of time in New Mexico, so that's wow. Okay, that's a winner answer there. How do you handle stress?
My doctor gave me these little pills for your heart. I try to exercise. If you can exercise every day, I think I get a lot of the toxins out of me. I have to sweat. I hate to say it, but I really have to release it. That's the only way I can. And I'll go stir crazy if I don't. Yeah.
Now you mentioned briefly, we asked about the morning routine. You might be the winner there. 4:45? 4:45?
4:45.
Wow. Weekends.
Even after the pandemic, because before then, I'd just go straight to the gym. I'd do my workout, take a shower there, and then go straight to the office. And I don't like change. And this was really hard for me to figure out a new routine and do everything at home. But I didn't think this was going to be a long run thing. So I said, stick with your routine and figure out a workout and come up with a new routine. And then when this is over, just go back to your old routine. Well, I'm still doing it. And I'm waiting for this thing to be over.
Yeah, no, that's great. And 4:45 weekends too?
No, not on the weekends. But once you train your body to get up at 4:45, sleeping in is 6 now. Yeah. And that's really a bummer because, then I'm getting a cup of coffee and I'm all alone on the back porch.
Well, Christian, this has been fascinating. And, this is why we do these is you just get, there's probably 50 nuggets of greatness in this interview. But I want to really end it by saying this company Caliber, our ability to spend time and have people like you, this company was built because of what you do. And what I really want to say is thank you. And the growth we've had and the ability to bring in all these new originators who will see this someday is because of the hard work that you contributed. And we don't forget that. And so I want to thank you for your time today, but more importantly, thank you for being Caliber. This is who we are. And you've got your mark and stamp all over this place. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the support as always. You guys have always had my back and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Connection podcast from Caliber Home Loans. Please see the show notes for links to topics discussed in this episode and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.